Hey gang, got a little bit of Canadian music history here on the bench today. This is a parlor guitar made by R.S Williams and Sons of Toronto, Ontario, sometime in the 1920s or 30s. It's actually labeled with Bellevue up here on the headstock, and as I understand it, that's referring to the Bellevue Music Academy of London, Ontario. Much like some of the other big US makers at this time, if you had a small music teaching studio and you wanted to sell guitars to your students, these guys would make up a batch of guitars and brand them for you, whatever you wanted on the headstock there. It's got a rosewood fingerboard and a rosewood nut, and there's an indication here just in front of the nut where it was originally fitted with a riser, so it was probably used to play Hawaiian-style lap steel guitar, like slack key, which was really popular in the 20s. Guitar's got a laminated plywood body, birch ply that's been stained a medium brown color, looks kind of like mahogany. And it's got a really funky Art Deco-ish decal here below the bridge. And another one here for some sound hole decoration. And it's got a really great looking yellow label inside there. King Street West. I wonder what that would cost you today. Couldn't afford to build guitars on King West these days. It's got one of these sort of simple style bridges that has just a length of fret wire instead of a bone saddle. And there's some ingenuity at play as well. You can see that along the line it lost some bridge pins, and someone went ahead and used some furniture tacks to stick the strings in there and keep them in place. And they seem to be doing pretty well for themselves. It's a good job. So the R.S. Williams Company is kind of interesting. They were around from the 1850s all the way up to about World War II, and they started off making pianos and organs, I think. They also did banjos, violins, as well as guitars. And the ownership was doing pretty well for itself. I know that around the turn of the 20th century, they donated a bunch of really high-quality European instruments to the Royal Ontario Museum, which are still part of their collection there. And I think, like a lot of these companies, the Depression really took a bite out of their business, and I don't think they ever really recovered. The owner of this guitar would like it to play better than it does. You know, it was a student model guitar, so I don't know if the action was ever great, but right now it's pretty darn high. It's about 9/64. And I was looking at the fingerboard and the string length, and something ain't quite right. I think the, I don't know, maybe the bridge wasn't located in just the right position or something, because I think we're missing about 2 millimeters worth of string length here. Even without compensation, it's just too short for where it should be. So when I fix the bridge, I'll probably end up moving that saddle backwards a little bit so you get some better intonation, and hopefully it'll play in tune. I thought this was kind of a neat guitar. You don't see very many of those. Not very many Canadian manufacturers at this date, and very few of these things seem to have survived.
We'll be doing this the inexpensive way by lowering the bridge. Obviously, if it was a collector's grade instrument, we would be doing a neck reset instead, but that kind of repair costs way more than this guitar is presently valued, so this is the economical alternative. I'll take this down to just over 1/4 of an inch in height. Anything less than that and the guitar starts to lose a lot of volume and sustain, and it winds up sounding like a quiet, introverted banjo, which is like the last thing anyone wants to listen to. Got a strip of maple here, which will get a lot of glue on, and we'll use that to fill the previous saddle slot there. And then we'll use a sanding block to smooth it out and make it look elegant. Here I'm marking out the intonation points, and we're going to go with an angled saddle slot this time so that it has more of a chance of playing in tune. I'm supporting the bridge with a big block of wood underneath it so I can bang away without worry. And the best thing I've found for replicating the look of ebony if you're trying to stain maple is actually old-fashioned India ink. It just has the right color and it looks good under a finish.
So there we have it. Couple of quick coats of shellac there over top of the ink, and looks pretty good. Got a new set of bridge pins here. There was a loose brace on the inside that was buzzing furiously, so I re-glued that. I also noticed that the string windings on the ends of the strings were actually coming up over top of the saddle here, which is kind of a no-no. But in this case at the factory, I guess they were, pretty loose where that bridge pad ended up underneath, so it's actually shifted forward, and it the edge of the bridge pad intersects the holes about right halfway. So each of these holes is half on the pad, half off. So I couldn't really get in there with a piece of wood like I normally would without a lot of trouble and fuss. So what I did was I filled the string slots that run between the bridge pins and the saddle just a little bit to pull the strings back, and now they're clean. The windings aren't hitting the top of the saddle. So that's pretty good. It's a loud little guitar.